So the first thing God showed us that was a necessity is separation. So anybody who wants to be like God cannot be fused to the world system. You cannot be part of the world and be like God. So he separated the man. When he separated the man, the second thing he did was that he gave him a promise. A promise that he was going to be the ruler over the earth. He said, in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed. That's the dominion he gave Adam. But you see, he couldn't do beyond that with Abraham. The only thing he did for Abraham was to reveal to us separation and the promise of dominion. And so the whole era of Abraham passed, and then God came to Moses. And when God called Moses, God added another layer to what he started with Abraham. In the case of Moses, God didn't promise him the whole world. The world has already been promised to Abraham. In the case of Moses, God didn't really talk much about separation. Rather, God sent him to Egypt to deliver his people. So two things he showed us will happen to the man that will be like God is that number three is that man must become like God. So he gave Moses laws that you need to operate from my realm. You need to be exactly like me. The idea of the law was to show man the culture of heaven, how God lives in his realm. The laws were not about do's and don'ts. The laws were to reveal the character of God, because the character of God is revealed through his ways. You know, as a human being, if you wake up, you brush your teeth. If you bring a baboon into your house, brushing the teeth will not be a lifestyle. It will be a law for the baboon, because in the world of baboons, they don't brush. So when you are telling a baboon to brush, the baboon will call it a law, but to you that is lifestyle. So when God gave laws to Moses, he wasn't bringing us into do's and don'ts. He was showing us that beyond blessing, beyond separation, we must become like him. So in Abraham, God showed us the blessing and the need for separation. In Moses, God showed us that separation is not an end in itself. The purpose is for you to become like me, so that when men see you, they see me. That was why he gave Moses laws. And then he didn't stop there. He now went further and encountered David. And in David, God completed what he wanted to do with man. In David, he showed us the status we will enter when we become like God. When we become like God, we will not be servants, we will not be slaves. That's why in David, God established the dynasty of kingship. That when you become like God, actually you become a king. Because God is the King of kings. Who are the kings that he's kinging over? We are the kings. He is the King of kings. We are the kings. So when you come into Christ, when you become like God, you are a king. You are a monarch. You are not a slave. That's why demons can't oppress you. Sickness can't oppress you. Sin cannot oppress you. God was telling a story through the pathways of the patriarch. And when he finished telling that story, he now manifested it in Jesus. So when Jesus came, he didn't just come to save us. He came to restore us. Restore us back to the plan of God. And so when Jesus was born, of course he came to save the world, but over and above that, at the baptismal service, God pointed at him and said, this is my beloved son. This is my idea of a man. Abraham touched a part of it. Moses touched a part of it. David touched a part of it. But the full definition of a man is not Abraham. The full definition of a man is not Moses. The full definition of a man is not David. This is my beloved son, in whom I am well pleased. And when Paul was talking about Jesus in Colossians 2:9, he said it pleased the Father that the fullness of the Godhead should dwell in him bodily. So the man that God is looking for is the one who carries God and is like God.